Welcome to Lead with Clarity. This is a space for leaders who want to grow without losing themselves in the process. Each episode is a short reflection on leadership, influence, and the inner work that shapes how we show up for others. It's not hype, not noise, just clear thinking for the journey of leading well. Today's episode is entitled Leadership and the Courage to Take a Chance. Here we go. Leadership often asks us to move forward before we feel completely ready. That reality shows up in small decisions and in career-defining moments. It appears when we consider stepping into a new role, sharing a new idea, or trusting someone on our team with an opportunity that they've never had before. There's a quote from Dale Carnegie that captures this leadership tension in a very simple way. He says, "Take a chance. All life is a chance." At first glance, the quote almost sounds like encouragement for adventure. Feels bold and optimistic. But when you sit with it for a moment, especially from a leadership perspective, it becomes something more meaningful. Leadership is filled with moments where certainty simply does not exist. You don't know how the team's going to respond to a new direction. You don't know whether a strategy will work the way you hope it will. You don't know if the person you are mentoring will fully step into their potential. And yet leadership requires movement. One of the defining differences between people who lead effectively and those who remain stuck is their relationship with uncertainty. Many people are waiting for clarity that never comes. They want one more piece of data, one more layer of approval, one more signal that the decision will work out perfectly. But leadership growth rarely appears that way. Often the next step forward requires a willingness to move even when the full outcome is not visible. Think about the leadership moments that shaped your own career. Very few of them likely came with guarantees. Perhaps someone gave you responsibility before you felt completely ready. Maybe a mentor trusted you with a project that stretched your capabilities. Or maybe you spoke up with an idea in a room where you were not the most senior voice. Those moments carry risk, but they also carry growth. A common misread of Carnegie's quote is the idea that taking a chance means gambling, that leadership is about dramatic leaps or bold moves without careful thought. Strong leadership is not reckless. The best leaders are actually very thoughtful about risk. They prepare, they listen, they gather insight from others. But they also recognize something important. Waiting for certainty often becomes a form of hesitation. And hesitation has a cost. Ideas remain unspoken. Opportunities remain unexplored. People remain undeveloped. The real leadership skill is learning to recognize which risks are worth taking. That's the reframe behind this quote. Leadership is not about eliminating risk. It is about choosing meaningful risk. Sometimes that risk is investing in someone who shows potential, but has not yet proven themselves on paper. Sometimes it is advocating for a new direction that challenges the way things have always been done. Sometimes it is simply having a difficult conversation that you know will help someone grow. In each case, there is uncertainty, but there's also the possibility of progress. Something powerful begins to happen when leaders model this kind of thoughtful courage. Their teams start to behave differently. People begin to share ideas more openly. Innovation becomes more natural. Ownership spreads throughout the organization. Why? Because people watch how leaders respond to uncertainty. If leaders avoid risk, the team will avoid risk. If leaders punish every failed attempt, the team will stop experimenting. But when leaders demonstrate a willingness to take thoughtful chances, it signals something important. It tells the team that growth matters more than perfection. And that kind of environment changes everything. People start to stretch themselves. They try new approaches. They learn faster. Over time, that culture of thoughtful risk becomes a source of momentum. But it always begins with a leader who is willing to step forward first. So the reflection from Carnegie's quote becomes a very practical one. Where in your leadership are you waiting for certainty that may never come? Is there an idea that you have been holding back on because the timing does not feel perfect? Is there someone on your team who might grow if you trusted them with more responsibility? Is there a decision you know needs to be made, but you are hoping for one more signal before you act? Sometimes the next leadership breakthrough doesn't come from a flawless plan. It comes from the willingness to move forward with courage and humility at the same time. You take the step, you learn, you adjust, and you keep moving. Because in leadership, just as Dale Carnegie reminds us, life itself is not built on guarantees. It is built on chances. And often the leaders who create the greatest impact are simply the ones willing to take them.